So on this episode of Flippin' Ain't Easy, I wanted to just kind of go over some things that I'm doing during this pandemic crisis that we're dealing with, and how I was wrong on some things. So without any further ado, let's go. So, yes, I mentioned that I was wrong, and I was wrong about the idea that summer's starting now. When this went down, the announcement was made that there was going to be a shutdown, state by state. I'm here in Nevada, so it wasn't really a shutdown like, say, in California or New York, but we were pretty much told that all the businesses were closed and to stay inside. Okay. So for me, I'm full-time. I've been full-time for a while, so it didn't really impact me like it may have impacted many of you. But at the same time, I thought that sales were going to slow down, stock market crashing, that kind of thing, really made me think that we were in trouble. And who knows? It looks like the stock market is starting to make a little comeback, and with the passing of the bill, I don't know if you all heard. There's a passing of a bill in the Senate that will get, I believe, $1,200 per taxpayer, $2,400 per couple, and then I think it's $500 per child, which I don't qualify for, but many of you probably do. And that's coming probably sometime in April. Needs to be passed, I think, by the House tomorrow or something like that. So hopefully they get their act together in Congress and can get along and can figure all that out, because there's a lot of folks out there, probably one of you, who really are going to need extra income. But going back to what I was talking about, I was wrong. I was wrong because I came back from my trip, which I needed, by the way, and I think it's on another topic altogether, but I definitely got to get away once in a while. But came back and expected, I was even debating, well, maybe time to get into something on the side, because I work 10 to 12 hours a day, and it's at my own pace. Probably could work a little bit more efficiently, but that's another video altogether. But I said, you know what? I have a lot of stuff in my garage. Like I mentioned in a video prior, my strategy was, and still probably needs to be, making sure that I have enough inventory, because as we get through the rest of the year, we're going to have some inventory issues to deal with as a result of all this going on. But when I got back, I figured, I need to get my stuff listed. But the strategy I was dealing with at that time, I was pretty much going box to box, regardless if it was a $10 item or a $200 item. I was pretty much listing it all at the same time. Maybe 20, 30 items in a day, going through a single box, and then the next day going through another box, regardless of what the item was. And that was my initial strategy, but I think that with this going on, the better way to just get my stuff liquidated as fast as possible. So what we did is we went through every box in the garage. It was about 30 boxes of the stuff that I had recently bought, and I consolidated everything that I either have listed before or something that has decent value and will recoup the majority of my investments. So we did that, and out of 30 boxes, we actually made about 7 boxes worth of inventory, which is good. Okay, and so the idea behind getting items that we've sold before basically means, yes, I'll have to take new pictures for that particular item, but all the item specifics for that item are there. So my tip for you, the number one tip during this, is to find anything you've sold before that might be in your garage, your death pile, and get that item out and cleaned up, photoed, and listed. Okay, that is going to be an easier item for you to list. It's going to take you a lot less time, because you're simply, all you do is you go back to an older listing where you've sold that item and change out the photos, update the price, because your prices aren't going to be the same. You may have a situation where the price is now higher or lower, just depending on the situation. And you do that by checking on the solds, make sure that your pricing is in line with that based on the condition. And also find your more expensive items or things that do have value that you may have been sitting on. And start with that first. I still have another maybe 2 boxes out of the 7 that I have to list, but I got to tell you, I'm taking a lot less time listing, getting more listings done, okay? And it gives you a chance to liquidate your goods. It's also a good time to go through your death pile. And I know the feeling. You have $10, $20 items. The idea of going out and spending all that time taking photos, cleaning, evaluating, it just isn't something that you want to do. And that's why death piles happen. Instead you take the money that you have in the bank or PayPal that you've earned, and you are eager to reinvest it in something more interesting. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I have an entire garage full of merchandise, and I told myself, I do not want to buy any more product until I get most of this listed. But then I think about the fact that we have that situation going on with the goods not coming from China. So you have ships out in waiting to even get into the harbor because you have crews on there that may or may not have this corona. And so what's happening is really nothing, and no goods are coming into the ports. And so right now that's not a problem because we have a surplus of goods. But over the next few months, you're going to start seeing shortages of things. And whenever there's shortages of things, that means that your prices are going to go up. The cost of sourcing, and of course, what I might sell for $20 today, I may be able to sell for 25 or 30 based on supply and demand. And I'm not talking about price gouging. That's totally different. Maybe an Xbox game or controller might be really abundant right now, but in 3-4 months, it may be harder to come by. And so because of that, your prices are going to be changing, and usually your cost is going to be higher, and your sell price is going to be higher. And I'm seeing a lot of that right now. Some of the sourcing that I do liquidation boxes and pallets. The prices that I found in January were somewhere in the 10% MSRP range, whereas the prices that I'm finding now are closer to 15 to 20. And I anticipate those prices going up as demand increases, supply decreases. So we're playing that supply and demand thing. So my goal is to try to get enough inventory where I can actually get through the rough patch. I think is going to have about a 2 to 3, 4 month impact once this thing smooths over, and that could take us to the end of the year. So I don't want to be in a position where I have no inventory and I have no income, and because of that, sort of changing my mindset that I need to buy some more product. And would be a good idea for you to do that as well, because there's no yard sales. Thrift stores are non-existent right now because they're non-essential businesses. You cannot, at least where I'm at, go to those places. So what are you planning on doing to get through this rough patch? I'll call it a rough patch because we don't know how long it's going to last for. There's anywhere from optimism to the next month to could be months from now. Just really depends on how this thing goes. So what do you plan on doing? What are you going to do to source for the next 3-4 months? What have you done differently for those of you who maybe thrift or rely on your thrift store or yard sale to obtain merchandise? Or are you just taking a break? Okay, but I got to tell you, I had some pretty good days the last 4 or 5 days. Made some pretty good sales. I've come to the realization that you got a lot of people that are home. They can't go to stores like they may have used to be able to go to stores. Maybe they're not feeling well. Maybe they're under advisement that they can't leave, unless they have an emergency, that type of thing, depending on where they're at. So instead of going out into all this craziness where they might get sick, they're shopping online, and that's kind of got me motivated. I want to get things listed. I'm really wanting to get my merchandise up now more than ever before, because I want to liquidate it too. I want to get that stuff out of my garage. I want to get it liquidated, want to get it sold. But I've had days where, I'm selling 10 to 15 items in a day, whereas before I was selling 3 to 5. I'd get the bulk of my stuff on a weekend, but with everyone being home, or the majority of the people being home, every day is like a weekend right now. I mean, it's hard to believe. I thought that with the stock market going down, that we were dealing with a situation where people weren't going to be able to afford the thought of buying stuff. But I sell a lot of electronics, health and beauty, so just maybe that the things that they're buying are keeping them company, or these things are fulfilling a need. Things like clothing, things that do not necessarily fulfill an immediate need or an immediate want to, say, waste the time that they're dealing with, or to occupy them during this time where they're out of work. You really want to refrain from buying items like that to source. As it is, clothing is already saturated in this market, and I'm sure there's other things as well. But if you're looking for items to source, find things that people have an immediate need for, things that they can do inside. Outdoor stuff is probably not going to be on that list, so try to avoid your outdoors items, because for the most part, someone has mountain climbing gear or hiking boots, things like that aren't going to be in high demand right now. So share below some of the things that you're doing to plan ahead. I got to tell you, those who plan now for the upcoming uncertainty will do a lot better than those who don't plan, and that's the name of the game. The strong survive in this business, and if you're not planning ahead, you're putting yourself in a disadvantage, whereas your competitor who plans may not even have as good of a store as you, may not be as experienced as you, but if they plan better than you during this particular crisis, they're probably going to end up coming out ahead. So share down below in the comment section, what are you planning on doing to plan ahead for your business's survival? And are you listing more? Are you listing less? What do you think? What do you think of this video? Please leave your feedback below. Give me a thumbs up, and if you like the material here, please subscribe. Planning on having a video out to you real soon. So until then, just keep listing. This is the best way to increase your sales, and we'll see you next time.